Namaste nerds, this is Navanat, Budget Pub Stomper, and today I'm bringing you Fire Lord Azula. This is the next in a pretty long line of just truly busted and exciting and interesting Grixis commanders. It's interesting to me that not that long ago people were asking me to do a budget Grixis deck and I couldn't think of anything. There were just no good budget competitive options. So I was going to do Kess, and then luckily Kefka was released, and that kind of started it off. And now we've got Kefka, and then after that we had the Green Goblin, Oswald, two very cool, very powerful Grixis options. And this, I think, beats them all. This is Fire Lord Azula, $100 Fire Lord Azula, Grixis Control Storm. So I think, well, I've got a little description here, might as well read this. This is a Grixis control deck. If you're playing this deck, you're looking to stave off early wins and assemble one of many magecraft combos. So this is not going to be just like your run-of-the-mill Grixis deck. This is new. This is different. It's going to feature these magecraft combos that will create infinite card draw, infinite looting, infinite mana, and or infinite damage. And the I guess when I first saw the commander, I was kind of torn in a couple of different directions. The commander, this deck, this archetype, I think could be split into at least two sub-archetypes. I think we could either focus on going off ASAP, and I mean that in CEDH, but I also mean that in budget competitive. We can focus on going off as soon as possible and be sort of like a Krakashima style storm deck. In the budget version, this is going to be could be a storm deck that is focused on going off like turn 4 or 5, going off really out of nowhere, setting up a little bit and then going off out of nowhere, and being the kind of turbo turn 4, turn 5 storm deck. Now, is that fast enough? That depends on your meta. If you think that in your meta, being able to just go off and storm off on turn 4 or 5 is going to be fast enough, and your meta is forgiving enough, then I think you could definitely do that. It's not going to be, my meta is not going to allow me to take the first few turns of the game off to just sort of establish my game plan and then go off second and expect to still be alive in order to go off second. But I guess before we go into all of that, let's read the commander. Let's talk about Fire Lord Azula. So what is she? I think I don't know anything about Final Fantasy. So in my headcanon, this is the love child of Kess and Kalamax. So I think the official canon, if I'm remembering it correctly, is Kess got drunk one night at a party and she had a fling with a dinosaur. Not just any dinosaur, but Kalamax. So those two kind of hooked up, did their thing, and they had a love child, and the love child's name is Fire Lord Azula. This is bringing in pieces of Kess. It reminds me of Kess, and it reminds me of Kalamax. So this is like Kessamax, or Kalakess. This is Fire Lord Azula. She's a Grixis and 1, so a 4 mana. Legendary human noble, 4/4, which is very important for those of us who love our bolt bend type spells, and you know I do. But she has fire bending 2, and fire bending 2 means when this creature attacks, you're going to add 2 red mana to your mana pool, and that mana just stays in your mana pool only until the end of combat, unless you've got tricks, and we do have tricks to save the mana. Like Ashling, and also like Electro. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Back to Azula. Whenever you cast a spell while Fire Lord Azula is attacking, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. And if you copy a permanent, then that permanent does get copied, and you get that permanent spell to come in as a copy that's a token copy. Why is this reminiscent of Kess? Well, Kess had the Grixis core that was in CDH trying to be sort of a turbo-y mid-range, like sort of in the... Kess occupied the space between mid-range and turbo. And Kess would try to kind of do like a Kess agnostic Grixis plan, where we're doing like turbo ad nauseum, underworld breach sorts of things. And then if you got stopped or things didn't go your way, then you were able to bring Kess out. And Kess was a really, really good backup plan because Kess allowed you to cast any instant or sorcery from your graveyard one time per turn. So like the big trick with Kess, and there was lots of tricks, but sort of the big trick with Kess and CDH was that you could use Demonic Consultation and Tainted Pact as one card win conditions. You could cast your Demonic Consultation and name Thassa's Oracle and flip through your exile all the cards until you come to your Thoracle, and then you would cast your Thoracle holding priority, and you would recast the Demonic Consultation that's now in your graveyard, and you would name a card that doesn't exist in your library, and you would wipe out the library, hence winning with the Thoracle. So we're not doing exactly that, but Fire Lord Azula does those Kess type things, or allows us to do Kess like things. And how is she like Kalamax? Well, Kalamax is a Temur Dino, 4 mana, that when it's tapped, it says that you can copy the first instant that you cast on every turn. So this is not exactly the same. I think it's almost just, it's not strictly better. Well, hell, it's not even the same colors. But it's reminiscent of the Kalamax thing in that you can set up and cast your one instant that's going to turn into a win. So what I'm looking for in a commander, when I want a commander that's going to be like a card advantage engine, and or a mana advantage engine, and or a combo piece. Those are the main 3 things. So which one is Fire Lord Azula? Well, Fire Lord Azula has all 3 checked off. She absolutely is a mana engine, check, with a little tiny bit of build around. It's not hard to see how she's a card advantage engine, check, and if you build the deck right, she's a combo piece. What's the deck going to look like when it's doing its thing? So like step 1, don't die, right? So we're packed full of interaction. We've got a Braid, we've got Arcane Denial, Offer, Fatal Push, we've got Delay, we've got all of the good counter spells, all of the good removal pieces that these colors give us access to, and then we've got some pieces you don't see very often in budget competitive, and I love commanders that do that. I love commanders that take cards that I would never play and just kind of tell me, no, look, you need to play it in this deck. I'm thinking here of cards like Reverberate, Unexpected Windfall, Expedite, Crimson Wisp. I mean, these are cards that, while they do occasionally find homes here and there, they're far from auto-include staples in the color combination, in the Grixis core. Kind of like Kalamax. Any card that has a sort of big upfront cost for a big effect is going to be good here. I'm thinking in terms of, I'm thinking about cards like, Big Score. Not only is it a 4 mana spell, which is pretty big on its own, but it also has an additional cost of discarding a card, and that's not good. But for 4 mana and discarding a card, you get to draw 2 cards and create 2 treasures. Now, normally that's not quite good enough for competitive, but remember, when you copy a spell, you don't copy the casting cost. And these cards say very explicitly on them, like Thrill of Possibility, as an additional cost to cast the spell, discard a card. And so if you're copying Thrill of Possibility with Azula, you're going to, yes, discard a card, but you're going to draw 4 cards. So it turns into just 2 mana, discard a card and draw 4 cards. And that's big. That's nasty. That's the kind of thing that's going to let us storm all the way off during one combat stop. And the same thing for a spell like Big Score. Yes, we're going to be discarding a card and paying 4 mana, but the mana's almost getting discounted by the fact that Azula gives us 2 red mana during combat, and if we don't use it, we lose it, so we might as well use it. And a good way to use it and not lose it, and might as well use it, is to cast something like Big Score or Unexpected Windfall. Same thing. I think those are literally functional reprints of one another. So these are instants that are going to let us discard one card, pay the 2 mana that she generates for us during combat, and then just 2 of any color along with it. And what do you get for your trouble? For your 2 additional mana plus your mana she generates, and discarding 1 card, you are going to make 4 treasures, and you're going to draw 4 cards. And this is all happening while you're still in combat. And so this is going to give you the opportunity to really storm off. Like, you cast this during combat, you discard a card, you make 4 treasures, you draw 4 cards. Some chunk of those is likely to be instants. We're playing 39 instants in the deck. And so then we're going to cast another instant because we just generated all this mana. And hopefully that instant is going to give us more mana and or more card draw. And we're just going to kind of pop off that way. Now, if we have managed to establish one of our engines, our specifically Magecraft engines before time, then that is also going to translate into drawing just bundles and bundles of cards with Archmage Emeritus, because Archmage Emeritus says that whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, you draw a card. So for the card that you cast and for the copy that you make, you're drawing a card off of each one of those. And the same thing kind of goes for Ashling Flame Dancer. The same thing for Ral. Storm Conduit is just going to keep pinging and dealing a bunch of damage while we're running through this. Electro is kind of its own thing, but in sort of a similar vein. And Storm Kiln Artist is just going to make treasure after treasure after treasure while we're trying to storm through our decks, make our big storm run. Now that may seem non-deterministic, and in a lot of cases it is, but with our kind of some of our main win conditions, we're really not going to be in a non-deterministic storm off. We can end up in a very deterministic storm off. Let me give you just an example. We're playing a bunch of these fork effects, like Return the Favor can be sort of a fork. Reverberate is a functional copy basically of fork, but it's only $1.87 instead of like $28 or whatever. Then we've got Increasing Vengeance. You could play more of these. You could play less of these. This is the suite that I landed on. I had more and ended up Goldfishing and cut 1 or 2. I've actually iterated and goldfished on this deck a tremendous amount, and I think I've got the mix just about right. But if we have a reverberate, if we have like a fork spell, if we have like a true literal fork spell, then if we can fork something with our 2 red mana from Fire Lord Azula while we're in combat, and we've got a Magecraft anything in play. Let's just say the simplest version is Ral. Ral says whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, it deals 1 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. It also has this +2 scry, so it's a value piece, but it's also got a -2. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, you can copy that spell and choose new targets for the copy. Now, in a weird sort of way that I hope that I'll remember and have time to get into, Ral Storm Conduit can sort of become a backup commander. So back to the kind of combo thing. We've got Ral or any of our Magecraft payoffs in play. We go to combat, and we use our 2 mana to fork anything. Casting either Return the Favor, which would actually take us at least 3 mana, so the 2 red that she provides, and 1 of any color, or Reverberate, she'll just pay for Reverberate, or Increasing Vengeance. So we have our 2 red mana from attacking with our commander. Somebody casts, say, whatever, an instant speed something, and we reverberate it. So we've got our Ral in play. We cast Reverberate, copying whatever, like targeting whatever spell maybe gets shot, like a Swords to Plowshare that gets fired off at our commander. So we cast Reverberate. So it's last in, first out. We're on the stack, so our Reverberate is above the Swords to Plowshare on the stack. And so the Reverberate's going to come down, and it's going to make there's going to be a copy that copies the Reverberate. And that Reverberate copy is going to copy the Reverberate. And that copy is going to copy the copy, and that copy is going to copy the copy. And you're going to make infinite copies of Reverberate. Well, Ral says that whenever you cast or copy a spell, Ral is going to ping somebody or something. And so we're just going to be able to damage out the table that way. Or maybe in the case of Increasing Vengeance, which does have the upside of allowing us to flash it back, which absolutely matters in this deck. There's situations in the deck where we're going to be putting a ton of cards in the graveyard. Like for instance, but not only this, but for instance, when we are popping off with Ashling, or even when we're just playing Ashling for value. Ashling has a Magecraft trigger that says whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, discard a card, then draw a card. So you're looting through your deck when you go through these kind of infinite Magecraft situations. Also, this says if it's the second time the ability resolved, Ashling deals 2 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. So she's kind of like a little board wipe, a repeatable board wipe, just for your opponent's stuff. And she deals damage to them. If it's the third time, and this is going to come up very often in this deck, you're going to add 4 red mana. That 4 red mana that you're adding while you're going through one of these Magecraft loops is going to give you the mana you need to cast something like a Invoke Calamity. Man, this is busted in this deck. But I want to stay on track with these combos. So any Ral, Emeritus, Flame Dancer, or Storm Kiln Artist is going to allow us to go infinite whenever we're able to use this 2 red mana to cast a fork of any kind. Now, I guess I'll just get to this now. If you don't have your Fire Lord Azula, you can use your Ral to do kind of the same thing. You can neg to your Ral. It says whenever you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. Well, then you're going to cast something that is... you're going to do that same fork thing, basically. So you're going to fork, and your fork is going to get copied, and it's going to copy the copy, and it's going to copy the copy. And Ral is going to allow you to burn the table out without having your Fire Lord in play. But any of these Magecraft things is going to give us the potential to go infinite with any of our fork spells. And there are other forks that we could use. I have considering... that I really am considering. And this is a bunch of cards that really you could play in the deck. You could play in a version of the deck. Some of them slot really well right directly into this version of the deck. Like we could play a few more red creatures like Goblin Electromancer, and then that would give us pretty easy access to Flare of Duplication, which even at the worst case scenario, the floor of Flare of Duplication is 3 mana, so red, colorless, to have another fork in your deck. There's also Expansion Explosion. There's some other options. You could also do Burnt Offering and Saw in Half with your Pinnacle Monk and do some of those shenanigans. There's tons and tons. This deck is so good at winning the game. I don't think we have to be too awfully worried about how exactly we choose to win the game. Just choose a good condensed package that makes sense with the rest of what the deck is doing and that synergizes well with your commander without sacrificing too much along the lines of just an individual card quality. That was kind of my plan with the deck. So, like, the number one thing, so you're sort of the cadence of the deck. We're going to try to, in the early game, just not lose. We're going to establish our mana. We're going to have our slim interaction held up to counterspell those early game-winning guys, counterspell the early game-winning spells, use our removal to just get to the point where we can hold up a piece of interaction while we cast our Fire Lord Azula. Now, there could definitely well be pods where, or even situations where you see that everybody's tapped out and you can just go for it all at once. Now, that's going to usually depend on you having some way to haste enable your Azula, but we've got spells like Crimson Wisps and Expedite. You could play Lightning Greaves. We had it in the deck. I opted off of it. Partly also for budget, although it's not that expensive right now, but we're at $99.79. So every penny is very important right now. So the cadence is survive, develop, and then try to get down one of your Magecraft engines, and then go to combat with one of your fork spells, or with a good storm start and make a storm run. So if you don't have the reverberate or whatever fork in play, that doesn't mean you're not going to be able to win the game that turn. It could be the case that you've got like a one of these Magecraft dudes in play, say an Archmage and or, well, any of them, any one or more of them. Maybe you've got Ashling and Archmage, or maybe you've got Archmage and Storm Kiln, and you've got one of these kind of big draw spells, which this is going to be a big draw spell in the deck, like Big Score. Then you can go to combat, you can cast your Big Score, discard a card. You're going to be drawing, if you've got the Archmage Emeritus in play, you're going to draw one more card for the Big Score, one for the copy of the Big Score. You're going to discard a card, and you're going to draw 4 cards off the Big Score. That means 6 cards. And if you also have some sort of a mana generating engine, like your Ashling or Electro or your Storm Kiln, then most likely you're going to be able to go on a storm run, and your draw 6 is going to get you into your Expedite, and you can just keep doing this during combat. You can draw the Expedite off your nasty draw 6 you just got off of the Big Score, and then you can cast your Expedite and draw a card from the Expedite, draw a card off of copying the Expedite, so you'll copy it and draw a card because you made a copy with your Archmage Emeritus, and draw a card because you cast the spell with the Archmage Emeritus, and there's 4 more spells that you're drawing with just the Expedite, which is likely to get you eventually to your Reverberate, or your Increasing Vengeance, or your Return the Favor, or your Invoke Calamity. Especially if you've got one of these mana engines like Storm Kiln, Electro, or Ashling. When you hit your Invoke Calamity off of one of these storm runs you're trying to make, this thing is crazy in this deck. I mean, it's nuts. So it is a lot of mana, but that 4 red mana, you get 2 of it off your commander. And if you've got one of these other mana engines in play, you'll get a lot more than that. So maybe you've got Ashling. So Ashling is going to give you 4 red mana just by herself as soon as you get to the 3rd cast or copy, which when you're going through the storm run is obviously trivial. Now, what does Invoke Calamity do? It says you may cast up to 2 instant and or sorcery spells with total mana value 6 or less from your graveyard and or hand without paying their costs. Now, if those spells would be put into the graveyard, you'll exile them instead, and you will exile Invoke Calamity. But when you cast this, when you're going through a storm run, or even if this is the only thing that you have in hand, if you've got a graveyard that's got some gas in it, you may well just decide to go for your storm run just right there. If you've got enough mana to cast it, maybe you've got like a blue held up to protect it, or maybe you've got a red held up because you may have guessed we squeezed Bolt Bend into this deck. This is like the perfect Bolt Bend deck. Like, this is a fantastic Bolt Bend deck. So maybe you've got some red mana, you've got your Bolt Bend, you've got Invoke Calamity, you've got some cards in your graveyard, you've got some stuff in your hand. When you cast the Invoke Calamity, your commander, if you do it during combat, your commander's not only going to give you 2 mana to cast it, but it's going to make a copy of it. And so you're copying the Invoke Calamity. So that means that now, instead of getting 2 free spells, you're going to get 4 free spells. That's crazy, right? But it doesn't stop there. Because not only are you going to get those 4 spells, but your commander is going to copy each one of those 4 spells. So you're going to end up copying 8 spells and casting them for free off this Invoke Calamity. So for your 5 mana, which your commander is going to give you 2, so 3 mana really, even if it's just like a Brainstorm, or hell, even if it's just an Expedite, you're going to end up drawing 8 spells off of that. That's nuts, right? And getting all of the Magecraft triggers for it. And that's just a ton of Magecraft triggers. Now, there's other tricks that we're able to utilize because of Fire Lord Azula. So for one thing, she doesn't say that she's going to copy any instant or sorcery. She says she's going to copy spells that you cast in combat, while she's attacking specifically. So that means if you flash in a High Fae Trickster, now you've got 2 High Fae Tricksters. If you flash in a Dualcaster Mage, now you have 2 Dualcaster Mages. Now, if you flash in a High Fae Trickster, you're also then going to be able to flash in all of these other creatures and your sorceries. So if you have High Fae Trickster in play, and you go to combat with Fire Lord Azula, if you flash in an Archmage Emeritus, you're going to end up with 2 of them. One of them will be a token copy, and the other will just be the normal one. So if you can flash enable, if you have a flash enabler, and they tend to be a little bit expensive, some of them, but we're using High Fae Trickster, and we're using Born Upon a Wind. So we've got multiple ways, and we've got tutors to get to those spells. We've got like really sick tutors in the form of Waterlogged Teachings, which usually is not a very good card, and also in the form of Mystical Teachings, which also usually is not a very good card. But these, when you copy them, they become win kind of assemblers. So we could use the Mystical Teachings to find one of our flash enablers, like our High Fae Trickster. There's just so many layers of synergy to this deck. High Fae Trickster is also a wizard. So if we can use the Waterlogged Teachings or the Mystical Teachings to find our High Fae Trickster. But if we use the Mystical Teachings or the Waterlogged Teachings, and they just say search your library for an instant card or a card with flash, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle. So you can use this during combat, either one of them. You'll get a copy of it, and you'll be able to find your A and your B. So you can find your Saw in Half and your Dualcaster Mage. You can find your Reverberate and whatever else, a thing to protect your Reverberate, or a thing to kick off the Reverberate, a thing to be the initial thing you copy with the Reverberate. So these are, or your High Fae Trickster. Or if you've got, maybe you've already got your Twin Flame, then you can find your Dualcaster Mage and your whatever. Also, a lot of our best pieces are wizards. We've got Archmage Emeritus, High Fae Trickster, Malevolent Hermit to protect our combo turn. What else is a wizard? Dualcaster Mage is a wizard. So we've got Step Through, which we can wizard cycle to find one of our flash enablers. Or we can wizard cycle, if we've got our Electro Duplicate in hand, for instance, to find our Dualcaster Mage. We've also got a really good tutor package in the sense that all of our main combos are probably going to be the Magecraft stuff, but our secondary combo is going to be the kind of Old Faithful, totally commander agnostic, Dualcaster Mage Twin Flame. Now we're also playing these Transmute tutors, so if we have our Dualcaster Mage and any of our Transmute tutors, and we have 3 or 4 in the deck still, we'll be able to find the A to our B, because if we have one of the 3 mana transmutes, we can find Electro Duplicate, and Electro Duplicate with Dualcaster Mage goes infinite, wins the game. Or if we've got one of our 2 mana transmutes, like Muddle the Mixture, or what's the other one? Shred Memory, then we can find our Twin Flame. So even though Twin Flame is expensive, it's $5, I thought it was worth it in this deck, because it puts us in that situation where we've got more layers to our combos, because we can find, if we have the Dualcaster, we can find, as long as we have the Dualcaster and any Magecraft, the Dualcaster and any transmute spell, we can find either Twin Flame or Electro Duplicate. And also, if we have the Twin Flame or the Electro Duplicate, we can find the Dualcaster Mage with at least the 3 mana transmutes. So that's kind of like the short explanation of how the deck works. Our commander is a nasty value engine. It's a card advantage engine by doubling our cards, and a lot of the cards we're doubling are card advantage cards. And it's got crazy synergies with spells like, High Fae Trickster. It can double a Dualcaster Mage, and that's going to come up. If you play the deck enough, it's going to come up. Somebody's going to cast something you'd like, and, I guess they have to do it during combat. The Dualcaster Mage, you can always flash in and copy the thing that your opponent likes. Nope. Boy, oh boy. Let me try that again. You'll always be able to flash your Dualcaster Mage in to copy something of your opponent's that you want to have. But if they try to do something in combat, your combat, when you flash in the Dualcaster Mage, you're going to get 2 Dualcaster Mages and therefore copy the thing twice. And maybe it's a counter spell. So you can flash in Dualcaster Mage to counterspell the counterspell that they countered to counter your Reverberate, for instance. And then one of your Dualcaster Mages can copy the counterspell to counter their counterspell, and the other can copy whatever spell you put on the stack initially to start off your Reverberate, to give you something to fork with your Reverberate. Although with Reverberate, this will copy your opponent's stuff too. We can do the Storm run with cards like Thrill of Possibility, Unexpected Windfall, these spells that, again, have a kind of high casting cost in that there's the 2 mana, but also discarding a card, which is arguably a higher expense. But you have this big effect, draw 2 cards, so that's going to turn into draw 4 cards, and our commander makes 2 red mana during combat anyway. So this can be the start of a storm run, where you Thrill of Possibility into Unexpected Windfall, into Big Score, and you're making 4 treasures off your Unexpected Windfall and 4 off of your Big Score, and you're drawing cards and you're making mana, and you just keep drawing cards and you just keep making mana. So you can storm run into a either non-deterministic storm run or eventually find your combos. One thing you may do while you are, and I think this is good that I explain this actually, the Ashling is a little bit different than the other deterministic combo pieces. So when we have our Ashling in play and we go for our infinite reverberates or infinite forks, right? We're going to be able to loot through our deck. But a lot of the and we're going to deal 2 damage to all of our opponents and all their things, and we're going to generate 4 red mana. So while we're looting through our deck, we're likely going to run into ways to win the game. But some of those might be dependent on having a combat step. And so we might have to use mid-combat. We may need to cast the Great Train Heist. And I put this in the deck specifically because it's going to give us that extra combat, but it's also an instant, so it's going to copy the extra combat. And so it also just has natural synergy with the deck. I don't think it's at all unreasonable or unlikely to think that you may be able to just, while you're going through the storm run, just like murder at least one player with your commander by like copying, like casting a great train heist and forking it, and the fork gets copied and the great train heist gets copied, and then you maybe have a way to keep ashlinging through your grave or through your library, or Archmage Emeritus archmaging through your library until you run into Invoke Calamity, and then you can cast the Invoke Calamity and copy and recast your instant speed extra combat spell over and over again and again. Other just big synergies with the deck. I was talking about the Ashling. So when we're going through the Ashling loop, we're able to loot through our deck. So we're going to need to have cards in our hand to eventually be able to set up a situation where we will eventually, if we're infinitely looting, we'll eventually find whatever card we want. And oftentimes that's going to look like discarding a bunch of your pieces that you know that you're going to get back with Invoke Calamity eventually. And so you're going to cast your Invoke Calamity, and then all of the things that you were looting, you're going to have your pick of the litter, because your Invoke Calamity, your 2 copies of Invoke Calamity are going to allow you to search your graveyard and your hand to recast the things that are there. So maybe those things are going to be like a Desperate Ritual and a Frantic Search, or a Desperate Ritual, a Frantic Search, which is going to allow you to have the mana to cast the Nexus of Fate that you've actually been holding on to this whole time. And then the Nexus of Fate is going to get copied, and you're going to take not just an extra turn after this one, but 2 extra turns after this one. And good luck losing that game. That's what I've got to say about that. Other notable inclusions that are going to be particularly good with our commander. A big one that comes to mind is dig through time. So maybe while we're delving or while we're digging with Ashling, we're putting all this fuel in our graveyard. Eventually we will loot into dig through time. We will pay 2 blue mana to cast our dig through time. We'll easily delve away whatever number of 6 cards. And then we're going to be able to look at the top 7 cards of your library twice and put a total of 4 of them into your hand. And just keep going and just keep going. But the actual combos are going to be like, maybe you will saw in half your dual caster mage, make infinite dual caster mages, and while you're doing the saw in half dual caster mage loop, all you need to do is find a Desperate Ritual and have one of your dual caster mages, when you're sawing it in half, one of your dual caster mages can copy the mana spell, the ritual, and the other can copy the saw in half. So your dual caster mage gets split in half, so you blow one up with the saw in half, making 2. There are 2 1/1s, but then one of them will copy the saw in half, and the other one will copy a Desperate Ritual. And you can keep doing that to make infinite mana, or infinite magecraft triggers. Or you can just find then eventually a lightning bolt, and then instead of making infinite mana with Desperate Ritual, you can do infinite damage with your infinite lightning bolts or your infinite ghost fire slices. So again, that is saw in half with dual caster mage. If you're already in combat, then you're not going to be able to go back out of combat and attack with your dudes and win unless you've got extra combat spells, unless you've got extra turn spells. But a lot of times probably won't matter, because you can just find a lightning bolt and you can use one of the dual caster mages to copy the lightning bolt and one of the dual caster mages to copy the saw in half. And then when you saw in half the next dual caster mage, you'll have 2 more. One of them can copy the lightning bolt, and one of them can copy the saw in half. And then that saw in half will hit that dual caster mage, and one of those dual caster mages will copy the Saw in half, and one will copy the Lightning Bolt. Hope that makes sense. So yeah, Mystical Teachings, huge in the deck. These cards like Thrill of Possibilities and Demand Answers and Big Score, Unexpected Windfall, Invoke Calamity. All this stuff is just really nasty in the deck, and they're not bad cards on their own. Now, when you're still in that early like control mode, and maybe you haven't really taken over the game yet, you can also just use your Fire Lord Azula to go to combat and cast a Lightning Bolt and copy the Lightning Bolt, and for every Lightning Bolt or Ghost Fire Slice or a Braid or Fatal Push, you can murder not one thing but two things. There's also a trick that I should probably talk about with Limdol's Vault. So Limdol's Vault doesn't seem like the kind of thing to copy, but you can use this top deck tutor, copy it, hold priority, and then you can cast a Consider, and that will allow you to draw whatever card you wanted on top with your Limdol's Vault, and then after you've drawn whatever card that is, you can have the copy of Limdol's Vault resolve. I believe that's right. So effectively getting two copies of Limdol's Vault, as long as you have a Consider or an Opt or some way to draw that extra card. Unwind is badass in this deck. You're in combat, you need to, somebody's like, oh shit, this is not going to be good, I need to murder this commander. Well, you can cast Unwind, and Unwind, usually if it gets counterspelled, you don't get to untap those lands, which is really why Unwind, it was being considered for CDH when it was first spoiled, but I think the thing that makes it not as good as it was supposed to be, because you look at it and you think, well, that's kind of like a free counterspell. Well, yeah, unless it gets counterspelled, in which case it's not at all like a free counterspell, it's like a 3-mana counterspell. But if you put 2 copies of it on the stack, now they've got to counter both copies. And if they copy neither of them, this has been a ritual. You can float the mana and untap the lands. And even if only one of them is countered, and somebody's like hoping that somebody else can counter the other, then the one Unwind will still go through and untap your lands, which is really important when you're trying to fight your way through one of these big storm runs. The deck is freaking sweet, guys. It's complicated. It's not going to be a turn 3 turn. It's really not even going to be a turn 4 deck all that often, although obviously it happens, right? But the way that I've built it, you could go different ways. I've built it to be a very robust control deck. It's got all kinds of early answers, all kinds of interaction, and when it gets ready to go, it fucking goes. It goes hard. And that is about all I've got to say about the deck. I was going to say maybe we could just play test some hands, and like I'll cut out some shit so we're not actually doing like an over-hour video. So this is obviously a very good starting hand depending on your pod. If you've got like a Selvala and a Ral in the deck, you may actually have to throw this back. But if you have got like a, you might get greedy if you've got, say, a Selvala, 2 control decks, and you let somebody else deal with it, and then you'll have interaction for the control deck. You could greed out, go like turn 1, Soul Ring into Talisman, hold up Dispel, and then on your, we would have drawn, and then on your next turn, if you're feeling particularly greedy, you could cast your commander, or you could go like this, and this, and then this. This would make me a little bit nervous, but it would have us set up for turn 3 to be able to, so we may not want to play that land, because a lot of times when we're going through these like stormy turns, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you at least one stormy turn, so we'll just keep playing until I find a stormy turn. But we may want to hold on to this land so it gives us something that we're happy to discard. So what we could do is we could play the land, and we could use the shred memory to find a reverberate, And then we could use our mystical teaching. Well, no, let's not do that. So let's say we're going to go to combat, and let me just at least show you what this looks like. We go to combat, we get our 2 red mana. We do have blue held up in case somebody tries to murder our dude. We can dispel their murder attempt. But then we've got 2 red, and we've got a soul ring. So let's hold the soul ring. Hold the 2 red. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. This is tapping for blue. And we're going to cast the Mystical Teachings. That Mystical Teachings is going to get copied. So now we're going to find, remember we haven't spent our 2 red mana yet. So now we're going to find 2 spells that are either instants or have flash. Because this is getting copied. And so we could find Dual Caster Mage and Saw in Half. And then get ready to win on our next turn. But I think I want to show you what the Storm Off looks like. So we'll find some stormy shit to do. We will find 2 things. Maybe a cheap one and an expensive one. No, maybe we'll just get greedy and get 2 expensive ones. Yeah, let's do the greed. Let's be greedy. So this is just like an idea. You could find Frantic Search too. That would be a pretty good thing to find. Great Train Heist. Invoke Calamity could be pretty good. Okay, let's do this. Let's get Invoke Calamity to hand. And let's get... what's the... Unexpected Windfall. We'll grab the Unexpected Windfall. Put that to hand. So we're still in combat. And we still haven't used our 2 red mana. So we're going to use the 2 red mana. And then that's 1 and 2 additional mana. We're going to cast the Unexpected Windfall. The Unexpected Windfall is going to get copied. Now we are going to have to discard a card. I think we'll go ahead and discard. Maybe I should have played this land. Because now I'm thinking I could just as easily discard the Shred Memory. Yeah, fuck, let's do that. Let's say we played the land. So I'm going to discard the Shred Memory. And I'm going to get 2 copies of Unexpected Windfall. That is going to make 4 treasures. Add a token 1. Add a token 2. Add a token 3. Add a token 4. And we're going to draw 4 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. Not really what we were hoping for, but it's probably fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can cast the Invoke Calamity. Yeah, let's do that. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is in our graveyard. And we are going to cast the Invoke Calamity. The Invoke Calamity is going to get copied. So now we're going to have 2 instances of cast up to 2 instance and or sorcery spells with total mana cost 6. One of them is going to be Unexpected Windfall. And one of them is going to be Abrade. So the Abrade is going to get copied. We're going to murder 2 things. That's going to go to our graveyard. And the Unexpected Windfall is going to get copied. And this is still only the first Invoke Calamity that's resolved. So we're going to get another 4 treasures. Like so. We're going to draw another 4 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to resolve this second Evoke Calamity. It's really not looking any better. I mean, we're just going to do, I think, the same thing maybe. Or maybe what we'll do is we'll Invoke Calamity. And our 6 mana worth of spells is going to be... What else do we have in here? Could be Mystical Teachings and Abrade. Then the Mystical Teachings could get copied and we could find 2 more things. We could find... Well, I think let's just do the same damn thing we just did. We'll just Abrade again and we will Yeah, we'll abrade again and blow up 2 more things. And we will windfall again. So we'll discard a card. And we'll make 4 treasures. And we'll draw 4 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. That was kind of pathetic. That just, that went poorly. That went poorly. Well, okay, so we're going to have to go out of our combat phase, I think, now. I mean, if there's still more things to blow up, we could start casting like a Ghost Fire Slice, and it'll get copied and murder a couple things. But what I'm thinking is we need to use our Wishclaw Talisman. Yeah, no, I think we've got this. We could, so we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we'll have 8 mana. We need, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we messed up somewhere there. It looks like to me we might just have to... Okay, so what happens if we Wishclaw for an extra combat spell? And we take another combat. I'm looking for a way to get the Dualcaster Mage Twin Flame thing in action. What if we Twin Flame this guy? And then... What if we Twin Flame this guy? And then we... I'm sorry, I'm stressed out because of the pressure of being on this clock. We could pay 2 to get any of our wizards. Well, I'm going to pause you. Well, as sure as I am that I botched something at some point, and we got pretty bad luck with all the lands. And I mean, look at... we had... Yeah, we probably should have done something with the mystical teachings. But what I'm seeing now is we've got a couple options. We could step through finding, we could wizard cycle for, is it Electro? Ashling, one of those two. Storm Kiln is not a wizard. We could get our Archmage. I think everything. So we could Wishclaw, and we could get our Saw in half. And then we could saw in half the Dualcaster Mage and put the Ghost Fire Slice on top. But the problem with that is we're going to end up exactly 1 mana short, and that's assuming somebody does in fact have a multicolored permanent in play. Because we'd need 1, 2, 3 to play and activate that. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We would need 9. No. Wait. Okay, so we use 3 mana. And we get the, yeah, no, because we'd still need to put the thing. Okay, so 3 mana, but we've got 8. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we could make infinite Dualcaster Mages now, but we wouldn't be able to attack with them yet. We could do the Saw in half thing, but we wouldn't be able to cast the Ghost Fire Slice. I mean, look, we've got the game won. It's turn 3. We're totally rolled up here. We can hold on to the Dualcaster Mage, the Twin Flame, this piece. I mean, that probably just gets us there. So we could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... probably hold on to a land. 6, 7, no. 6, 7. So yeah, we put these. We discard all these. And this would be our hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I think what would happen would be all of our opponents would be shitting bricks, and they would all just think that they have got to take care of this Fire Lord Azula. But we don't really care about the Fire Lord at this point, so that would be probably good. Like, they'd all be planning on how to murk this guy, and maybe we'd pretend to put up a fight, or maybe we wouldn't. Maybe we would just let him go to the command zone, go to our next turn, and on turn 4, we could play our land, and we could cast a for red. So 1, 2, 3, 2 red, and a colorless for a dual caster mage twin flame. We would have pumped this into that. Even if we had to do that. Oh shit, we'd need to get a creature in play. What we would have had to do is hold on to the Skirk Prospector, or we would have cast it for one of our treasures last turn, because we'd need to have a target for Twin Flame. Or maybe they wouldn't have killed our commander. Or we could have fought for the commander. Or we can just Wishclaw for any creature. Treasure Hound or whatever. Any 1-mana creature, just to keep our options open. So that's what the deck's going to look like when it's playing. You didn't get to see like the... I mean, you got to see it storm off, but we just didn't really get anywhere. I mean, we got somewhere. We got a bunch of cards and a pretty much locked up, virtually guaranteed win for next turn. But that's what the deck does. That's how it plays. Sometimes you get luckier or unluckier on your windfalls and your storm runs. And I think there's just going to be a very high skill ceiling. I think once I get better at this deck, it's going to obviously just perform a lot better. I think this is a complicated deck, which probably you saw a bit of right there. But that's it. I don't think I need to run the tape any longer. Until next time, guys, word to your collective mothers. May the force be with you, peace be with you, and not with you, but also with you. And namaste, bitches.